Hey everyone, today I thought I'd make a quick video about Git, what Git has to do with the software development lifecycle, what do developers do with Git, and why you should know Git if you want to be a DevOps engineer or really be in the software industry at all. So a good place to start is probably what is Git. So let's go ahead and head on over to Google Chrome and just type in Git here in the search bar. Here we find a website called git-scm.com. I'm going to go ahead and check it out. So Git. Git is a free and open source distributed version control system designed to handle everything from small to very large projects with speed and efficiency. Now that's a lot of words, but essentially all it's saying is that Git is free, it's open source, meaning anyone can use it, and it's meant to version control your projects. So if you guys have not already downloaded Git, I recommend going and clicking this downloads link down here and then following along to the instructions that you will find for your operating system. Once you've installed Git, we can actually verify if you've installed it correctly by going to the terminal and typing in the command git and seeing all of these helpful little command tidbits come up. Next, what we're going to do is actually create a repository, and a repository is basically just like a project which will contain our source code. We're going to use a hosting service called GitHub to host our repository so that other people and other developers hypothetically could go ahead and see our code. So I'm going to go ahead and head on over to github.com. If you haven't already made an account, make sure to sign up here, but I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And once I sign in, you'll see that on the left-hand side I have something called repositories, and I have one here called Usama app. I'm actually going to make a new one, so what I'm going to do is either I can click the new button here, or I can actually click your repositories and then go ahead and click new repository. Let's go ahead and give this project a name. I'm going to call it Git Introduction. This is an introduction to Git. So here's the repository name. I gave it a description. I checked off public here, which means that anybody can go ahead and see my repo. If I don't want them to see my repo, then I could actually set it to private. The next thing I'm actually going to check off here is initialize this repository with a Readme, and then I'm going to go ahead and click Create Repository. A Readme file is basically just a markdown file which contains information about your application, and a lot of times people use the file to describe how to build and run the application. So here we have it, our git-introduction. This is an introduction to Git Readme file. And this right here is our repository. You can see we have one branch. This is a branch master we're looking at. We have one commit, which was our initial commit, which is when we made the repository. And we have one contributor, so far I'm the only person who's been pushing to the repo. Now I'm going to go ahead and clone our repository onto our desktop so that we can actually write code on our local computer, and our goal is going to be to push our new and updated code back up to our repository so that other developers or other people online can see it. So I'm going to go ahead and clone this repository by copying the URL here. You can either manually copy the URL or you can press this button right here. And I'm going to head into my desktop here and simply say git clone and then paste in my repository URL. And here it is, it cloned my repository. If I type in ls on my desktop now to list out things, it says git-introduction right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Visual Studio Code to open up our project. Now you can obviously use any IDE you want, but my favorite is Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to go ahead and click open folder here, and I'm going to open up Git Introduction. And I'm also going to open up a terminal so that we can type our Git commands. So here we see our readme.md here on the left corner. I'm actually going to add a file call it intro.txt. Now obviously this is our Git repository. We could be writing code in here. In this situation we're just writing a text file, but we could pretend it's code. So this is source code, and we want it to be on Git. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this, and if I go ahead and type in git status down here in the terminal, you'll see that it actually says your branch is up to date with origin master and you have an untracked file called intro.txt. And so git status is this helpful command which will actually tell us which branch we're on. In our case we're on branch master, and your branch is up to date, so it's letting us know we're up to date, but we actually have an untracked file in here called intro.txt which we have not committed or added to the repo. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we want to push this new file to our Git repo, and we're going to do that by saying git add -a, and this will actually commit all of our changes to staging. So it will enter staging, we will then commit it, and then we will then push it. So that's the sort of workflow when you pull down code, you make some changes, you want to push it back up, you have to first stage your changes, you have to commit your changes, and you have to push your changes. So the first thing we're going to do is git add -a, then we're going to do git commit -m, and git commit -m is basically the command we use to commit to our repo, and when committing we want to say -m, put 2 quotation marks, and inside of those 2 quotation marks we want to say what changes are we pushing. So to sort of provide a brief 1-sentence description about what we're pushing to the repository. This actually helps developers as well as yourself go back in time and sort of see where things might have gone wrong, if things are failing now, or if you want to track some sort of change you made a while ago. We can actually commit them with a message. So we're going to commit this one with the message. This is our commit with intro.txt. And I'm going to go ahead and press enter. So you can, it looks like it pushed everything, 1 file changed, 1 insertion, and now we're going to do git push, and then our branch, which is master. So git push origin master, and this will push to our repository. Now if I go into my repository and I hit refresh, I'll see our intro.txt here. If I click it, it says this is source code and we want it to be on Git. So there you have it. We took code, we pushed it up to Git, it's on our repository, other people can view it and other people can pull it. Now let's go ahead and check out that commit though. So if we go to 2 commits and we click on this one, it says this is our commit with intro.txt. So as we make more commits, we're going to see more and more commit messages show up, and let's say we had a commit message that was like add a database configuration or change the variable name such and such. We'd want to be able to track those, and that's what makes Git really cool, is that we can commit these things with messages. We can even commit them to different branches, and branches are essentially a way for Git to section off your application into different versions. We're going to stay on branch master in this video, but if you guys are interested in branching, I highly recommend you look up branching strategies, or actually one of the things I plan on making in the future is a branching video. So, but for now, we're on branch master, we push to our Git repo. Let's say somebody, like one of our developers or teammates, makes his own change to the code, pushes it up to Git. How can we have that latest code now that we have our previous code, and we kind of need a way to refresh sort of and get that latest code now? So to do that, let's simulate what this other developer might be doing by just doing it through the UI. So the person who is on Git, who's making changes to your repository, might create a new file, and he might call it timmy.txt. And in that file he might say, hey, this is Timmy, I'm pushing some code, and he goes and says, I created timmy.txt, any committed directly to the master branch, and we want to commit this new file. So Timmy went into our Git repo, he made his own file, he pushed it up, but now we're working over here in our local repository, here on our local computer. We're not seeing this timmy.txt, and so in order to get that latest code, we actually have to use a command called git pull, and to use that and show it, we'll just go ahead and type in git pull, and then we're going to go ahead and give the branch that we want to pull from, and again that's from master, so I'm going to say git pull origin master. And now that I did that, you can see updating, fast forward timmy.txt, and one file changed, 4 insertions. Let's go ahead and check out timmy.txt. Here it is. And we have those 4 lines of code that were added by Timmy. And this is the basic workflow of how Git works, right? It's a version control system for our source code. A lot of people are writing code. A lot of people need to share the same code base. And the way you can version control and track changes in it is by using Git. So guys, we talked about Git in a nutshell. We talked about what Git is. We talked about what a Git repo is. We talked about GitHub. And we talked about the 5 most used commands when working with Git. So hopefully this video gave you enough information to get started working with Git. Every company, or at least 95% of companies, use Git for version control. So make sure you definitely have that in your tool belt when going in and applying to jobs or joining a new team. It's definitely a very helpful skill to have.